Here's Grandpa's 44 plus old life hacks you'll wish you knew sooner. These are clever, time-tested tips passed down through generations. 1. Use wood ash to clean cloudy glass. Before commercial cleaners, Grandpa would head to the fireplace. He'd scoop a handful of cool, fine wood ash and mix it with a few drops of water to form a gentle paste. Using an old rag or piece of newspaper, he'd rub this paste onto cloudy windows or mirrors in slow, circular motions. The ash's natural abrasiveness cut through grime and hard water stains without scratching the surface. Once wiped off with a dry cloth, the glass sparkled. No sprays, no bottles. This method was also handy for polishing metal and cleaning soot off oil lamp chimneys. Ash from hardwoods like oak worked best, leaving no residue behind. Second, store apples with potatoes to prevent sprouting. Potatoes sprout quickly when left on their own, but Grandpa always placed a couple of fresh apples in the potato bin. Why? Apples give off ethylene gas, which naturally suppresses sprouting in tubers. It's a simple form of food preservation using nothing but nature's timing. He kept everything in a dark, cool corner of the cellar in a wooden crate with air holes. That little touch extended the life of his harvest by weeks, meaning fewer wasted spuds and more home-cooked meals. 3. Use bread to pick up broken glass. After a glass broke, Grandpa didn't reach for duct tape or a vacuum. He reached for a slice of stale bread. Pressed gently over the area, the bread picked up even the tiniest shards. Its sponge-like texture gripped slivers too small to see. He tossed the slice straight into the trash and carefully sweep up any larger pieces with a broom and dustpan. This method avoided injury and was especially handy near the dining table or pantry. No electricity needed, just common sense and what was already on hand. 4. Quiet a creaky floor with cornstarch or talcum powder. Back in the day, Grandpa didn't tear up floorboards to fix squeaks. Instead, he'd sprinkle cornstarch or talcum powder directly into the cracks where floorboards rubbed together. Using a broom or even his fingers, he'd work the powder down into the seams. Then he'd walk over the area a few times to settle it. The powder acted as a dry lubricant, reducing friction and eliminating the noise. It was a fix that cost nothing and lasted for months, a testament to how he solved problems without spending a dime. 5. Keep tools from rusting using motor oil or lard. Before synthetic sprays, Grandpa used whatever he had in the barn, motor oil or animal fat. After using hand tools like shears, hoes, or saws, he'd wipe them clean and coat the metal parts with a light layer of oil or lard. This barrier kept out moisture and prevented rust from forming. For wooden handles, he'd rub in linseed oil to keep them from splintering or cracking. Everything hung neatly on nails in the shed, protected and ready for the next job. Tools lasted decades this way. 6. Save soap slivers in a sock for scrubbing. When bar soap got too small to use, Grandpa never threw it away. Instead, he'd collect the tiny slivers in an old sock, tie it shut, and use it as a scrubber. It was perfect for washing hands after a day in the garden or barn. The rough texture of the sock made it ideal for scrubbing grease, while the leftover soap inside foamed up surprisingly well. He kept one of these hanging by the outdoor spigot, always ready to clean up after a day's work. It saved money and reduced waste long before zero waste was a trend. 7. Wrap a cloth around a broom for dusting ceilings. To clean cobwebs and dust from ceiling beams, Grandpa didn't own a fancy duster. He'd just wrap a clean rag or flour sack towel around the bristles of a regular broom and secure it with string or a clothespin. Then he'd reach up and sweep the ceiling gently. The rag trapped the dust while protecting wood finishes from scratching. He'd shake the cloth out afterward and reuse it. This hack made high spots easy to clean, especially in old farmhouses with tall rafters. 8. Sharpen scissors by cutting sandpaper. When scissors dulled, Grandpa didn't replace them, he fixed them. He'd take a sheet of fine grit sandpaper and simply snip through it several times. The grit honed the blades just enough to restore a clean edge. For a slightly finer touch, he'd follow up by cutting through wax paper to smooth the blades. This quick maintenance trick kept his workshop scissors sharp for fabric, twine, or paper. It cost next to nothing and worked like a charm. 9. Keep drafts out with a rolled-up quilt or towel. Old houses were drafty and Grandpa had no central heating. His solution? Roll up a thick towel or an old quilt and lay it along the base of the door or windowsill. He called them draft snakes. They blocked cold air from seeping in during the winter and helped keep warm air inside. Sometimes he'd sew buttons onto them and stuff them with rice or beans for weight. It was a clever way to insulate without fancy materials or modern foam seals. 10. Use newspaper to clean windows. Long before microfiber cloths, Grandpa reached for yesterday's newspaper. He'd dip a cloth in a homemade vinegar water solution, wipe the windows down, and finish with balled-up newspaper to polish. The paper's texture helped buff away streaks, and the ink acted as a mild polishing agent. It worked wonders on dirty panes after storms or dusty seasons. No lint, no smears, just clear glass with items he already had in the house. 11. Rub a candle on drawer tracks to stop sticking. When wooden drawers refused to slide smoothly, Grandpa didn't reach for fancy lubricants. He grabbed an old candle. Rubbing the wax along the runners and edges of the drawers created a frictionless surface. The drawer would glide quietly and effortlessly again. Sometimes he used a bar of soap if a candle wasn't handy. It was a simple, dry lubricant that didn't attract dust. No need to sand, no mess, just smooth movement restored with everyday items already around the house. 12. Keep mice away with peppermint and steel wool. Mice were a common nuisance in old country homes. Grandpa used a two-part solution. First, he'd stuff steel wool into small holes and gaps. Mice couldn't chew through it. Then he'd dab peppermint oil onto cotton balls and tuck them near doors, cupboards, and corners. The strong scent overwhelmed rodents' sensitive noses. No poison, no traps. Just basic natural deterrents. This old method was safe for pets and kids too, and worked surprisingly well in barns and basements. 13. Cool a room with a cross-breeze setup. On hot summer days, Grandpa had no air conditioner, but he had airflow. He'd open a window on one side of the house and another directly across from it. Then, he'd place a damp towel over one window screen and a bowl of ice in front of a fan. This made the breeze cooler as it passed through. The house would air out and cool down without electricity or gimmicks. It was basic physics and common sense, and it worked. 14. Use coffee grounds to deter garden pests. Grandpa hated wasting anything, especially his morning coffee grounds. After brewing, he'd let the grounds dry, then sprinkle them around his vegetable garden. They kept slugs, ants, and even cats away from his plants. The smell masked attractive plant scents, and the texture irritated pests. It also enriched the soil as it broke down, providing a mild nitrogen boost. This double-duty hack helped protect his crops and reduce waste at the same time. 15. Defog mirrors with bar soap. No defoggers in Grandpa's day, but his bathroom mirrors stayed clear. After a shower, he'd rub a dry bar of soap across the mirror, then buff it with a cloth until it was invisible. The thin film prevented condensation from forming. It worked for car windshields too. This trick came in handy when shaving or getting dressed after a hot bath, and it used nothing more than what he already had on the sink. 16. Mark a straight line with flour or chalk. Grandpa didn't always have measuring tapes or laser levels. When he needed a straight line for planting rows or woodworking, he'd stretch a taut string between 2 points and rub it with chalk or flour. Then, he'd snap the line down, leaving a clear, even mark across the surface. This trick was used in the workshop, garden, and even when laying out gravel paths. It was accurate enough for most tasks, and didn't cost a thing. 19. Use a brick to keep doors open or shut. Door stops weren't always handy, so Grandpa used bricks, one for holding a door open, and another leaned against it to keep it shut. He even wrapped them in old towels or cloth to avoid scratching the floor. In barns and cellars, he sometimes tied a brick to a string and let it hang behind the door to pull it closed automatically. It was pure ingenuity, turning basic materials into multi-purpose tools. 20. Catch drips with an upside-down lid under leaks. Leaky faucets or ceilings weren't always fixed right away, especially during storms or in barns. Grandpa would place an upside-down pot lid, pan, or metal bowl under the drip. The curved surface spread out the noise, keeping the drip from driving everyone crazy at night. Sometimes he'd even wedge a rag into the drip path to soften the sound. It was a temporary fix, but it gave him peace and quiet until proper repairs could be made. 21. Use a pencil to quiet a noisy door lock. When the front door lock started sticking or squeaking, Grandpa didn't call for help. He pulled out a pencil. The graphite in pencil lead is a natural dry lubricant. He'd rub it along the key and insert it into the lock, turning it several times. The graphite would coat the inner mechanisms, smoothing the action and eliminating that annoying squeak. It was fast, clean, and lasted a long time. Just another fix using what was already in his pocket. 22. Keep chickens calm with burlap feed sacks. If a storm rolled in or it was time to collect eggs, Grandpa knew chickens could get spooked easily. He'd hang burlap sacks or old grain bags along the coop's lower walls. The dimmed light made the birds feel secure, helping to reduce stress and egg breakage. The sacks also helped block cold winter drafts. This old homestead trick made for calmer birds and better egg production without electricity or fancy insulation. 23. Remove splinters with baking soda paste. When a splinter was too deep to grab with tweezers, Grandpa had a fix. He'd make a paste using a bit of water and baking soda, then dab it on the skin. After covering it with a cloth or bandage, He'd wait a few hours. The paste would cause the skin to swell slightly and push the splinter closer to the surface. Then it was easy to pull out with a needle or pin. No need for tweezers or painful digging. 24. Prevent frozen locks with a matchstick and Vaseline. In the coldest months, locks would freeze on outdoor sheds and doors. Grandpa had a simple trick. Coat a matchstick or toothpick with a dab of Vaseline and insert it into the lock. Then he'd turn the key to spread the jelly around inside. This created a water-repellent barrier that kept moisture from freezing. It worked better than de-icer sprays and didn't require any extra tools besides what he already had in the medicine cabinet.